Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Animates for our off-tangent interview. Oop, crap, I've already flubbed it. Give me a second. Sorry. So yes, I am standing in for Elise as she is not feeling so hot this week. So please be gentle. Bear with me. I'm doing the best I can. So today we are interviewing, as I said, animator Kyle Bunk. Kyle works at Firaxis Games as a 3D animator on XCOM, but he is also fairly well known for some of his very amazing Sprite animations that he has been so kind to show off live. I'll just poke around at a couple of these, but I will then show off Kyle's demo, like his professional demo reel. But as you can see, Kyle is very well versed in both 2D as well as 3D. And I'll just play this real quick for you guys. And I'll just get desktop audio happening. Oh, I muted it. Well, that's fine.
Okay.
So.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wait.
You
Okay.
should be playing. So.
I won't interrupt you.
No, it's cool. I was just playing your gameplay right now.
Okay.
So yeah, I couldn't actually click off of the because it's full screen. I couldn't actually click the volume. I'm doing great. Yay! I'm glad we can hear. So yes. All right, Kyle, where are you?
Can I talk now?
Yes, you can. You've been talking the whole time.
Oh, really? Wait.
Yes.
So, was our earlier conversation live?
No. Just
okay.
talking about your reel. So, hi, Kyle.
Okay.
Thanks again for taking the time to be interviewed by me. So I guess what I'd like to do is we'll just start with you telling us a little about yourself and what you're doing now.
Okay. So right now I am working at Firaxis Games, and I think I've been there for about 2 years now. I guess I can get started with like how I've kind of gotten into the industry originally.
Yeah.
Like, I went to a 2-year school in Delaware. It was called Delaware College of Art Design.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally for 2D, but I wanted to like get in the. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into 3D or 2D because I got to experiment with both. So that school taught how to do traditional animation, but then after those 2 years, I was supposed to transfer to like a bigger college, like Pratt or SVA or any of those colleges, and I decided instead of doing that to go to Animation Mentor, which was a 3D animation class that was over the internet. And I would do that while working at a toilet paper factory in Pennsylvania. So, like, I was still kind of making my way into the game industry.
Mm-hmm.
But after all that, I got a job at Gameloft, which was a mobile game studio. They have a bunch of studios across the world.
Yeah, we have one in Toronto.
Do they still exist?
They still exist in Toronto, yes.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
So where was yours, though?
I thought they got bought out or something.
They were bought out, but they still live.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, around when they were getting bought out is when the studio in New York closed down.
Mm.
And from there, I got a job at Firaxis, so here I am now.
Nice. Well, it looks like you're doing really well for yourself so far. But I guess, what was it that actually first got you interested in animation in the first place? Like, what made you decide to go study it?
I think originally I just wanted to do anything that was in a art-related field.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main catalyst for getting into specifically games was it was a few games like back in 2005. Like I played Shadow of the Colossus for the first time.
Okay.
And like I played a bunch of games before then, but that was like the first one that really inspired me to actually do this as a career.
Hmm.
And I actually didn't really consider animation at the time. I was more like I wanted to just pick up drawing or modeling or
Hmm.
any of those sort of things. And I sort of pursued that for the last couple of years in college. But I think my interest in animation started when I began college, and a lot of what I did was very animation focused.
Hmm.
And eventually I just landed in a more animation heavy sort of field.
Hmm.
But like my early days, I would actually like go on conceptart.org and I wouldn't post anything on there, but like I would
Yeah.
look at other people's posts and do like traditional art, do portraiture. Um, I think my first actually, I think my first foray into animation was I was somebody who also hung out on Newgrounds a lot,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of popular YouTubers today that actually got their start in making Newgrounds videos,
Yeah.
and I wanted to kind of do that, and I actually have a few Newgrounds videos
Oh,
that
nice.
I kind of don't really show around that much. Some of them are better than others.
Yeah.
Like some of them are very not good, which
Hmm.
is like, yeah, like I think that was my first entrance into animation,
Hmm.
and then eventually I got into 3D animation, which
Okay.
is where I work in games.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So were your family creative at all, or did you have anyone that initially inspired you to be creative in any way, or was it just something that you were always interested in?
Uh, it's kind of strange because my family is kind of split down the
Hmm.
middle. Like my mom's side of the family is very creative. Like they do pastels and
Like very traditional stuff.
very, very traditional stuff. And whereas like my dad's side of the family was very like mechanical and very heavy in engineering. So I kind of got like both sides of the experience.
Yeah, animation can be surprisingly technical.
Mm. Like, I mean, that was the thing that was really cool about being an artist in games is that, it is a creative field,
Hmm.
but you also need to know like how to work a computer
Yeah.
and math and like materials
Hmm.
and like just just understanding game logic
Yeah.
to make your artwork.
Yeah. Understanding
But
cycles and understanding like potential like variants and states that they may be in.
yeah, I think primarily my sister was really into art. Like we would play Dungeons and Dragons a lot and we would draw each other's characters.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think she was a big like within my family, she was a kind of big influence for me pursuing an art-based career.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
It's awesome.
Hmm.
So okay, yeah. So we answered the question of like university and like
Hmm.
so but if we could go into that, the first school that you went to though, so
Yeah.
was it just sort of like a general college, or was it specific, like was it something that specialized in creative things, or were you just still
So
trying to feel your
it
way?
was a school that it had a partnership with Pratt Institute.
Hmm.
It was primarily Pratt Institute, I believe, but basically how it worked, it was like art school community college in a way.
Okay.
Like you go there for 2 years, you get your degree, and then you can transfer your credits into a bigger college.
Okay. That sounds nice.
And yeah, originally I wanted to go to Pratt Institute or SVA, but
Hmm.
I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But then it was like in the back of their main, like, I guess, promotional book
Hmm.
that they talked about. Yeah, there's this 2 year school that you can go to that is like half the price. And you can go there and potentially like transfer your credits.
Okay.
And I think that's where I found some frustrations because I wanted to go to Pratt Institute to do 3D stuff, like 3D games.
Hmm.
But in order to do that, I had to take 2 years at this other school, and they did not teach that.
Yeah.
And there was like one course, and like even if I wanted to go to Pratt after doing the 2 years at this other college, I wouldn't have been able to transfer my credits. So it was my experience of college was not the best.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but I think it's less about the college and more
Mhm.
just like how I learn. College just wasn't for me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Was there anything that you wish you'd gotten to learn at university that you didn't really learn until like later, like either by yourself or through Animation Mentor?
Uh,
Anything you wish you'd learned earlier, or do you think that overall, like, I guess I don't know how to word that better. Sorry.
no, I think I know what you're talking about. So I will say, Animation Mentor, the way that school taught is something that I still experience in like the workspace today,
Hmm.
where we create something and we have to give feedback
Hmm.
and it gets critiqued and we go back and we just make it better.
Okay. So yeah, it's less of a
And
solid grade.
yeah, it's less of a. We did kind of get grades, but they didn't really matter. Like, I guess what college could do better. That's kind of a tricky question because the thing is, honestly, I don't think college was really good about teaching me stuff that I didn't know that I wanted to learn about.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, they didn't have the courses that I would want. Like, I went there to do animation, and the courses were okay,
Hmm.
but like we had a really good art history teacher.
Hmm.
So like we learned a lot about art history, even though that was not really my goal
Hmm.
for college. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think another big thing is also technology. A lot of
Hmm.
schools don't. It's very hard for a school to keep up with the current pipeline that a lot of animation studios and games have because it's constantly changing and it's really hard to, I guess, keep up with that.
Hmm.
So, but I think schools are doing their best.
Yes. No, I agree with
So, yeah.
you.
Mm,
Yeah, sorry.
okay.
Okay, so can you, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to best ask this question because you clearly have two distinct pipelines in regards to animating, but I'm curious to know if they kind of intersect with each other at all. But can you talk about your general approach to like animating a shot or a sequence or a cycle? Does
Mm.
the way that you animate in Sprite compare to how you animate at work in like Maya?
They actually work completely differently.
Okay.
Funny enough,
Yeah.
like for something like 3D animation,
Hmm.
I'll just go over that first because I think more people are familiar with how that works.
Yes.
Is you put down your key poses,
Hmm.
like for any sort of animation, there are key storytelling poses. For 3D animation, you put down those poses. Like there's a guy who like picks up a shovel and throws it, for example. There's a pose where he picks up the shovel and one where he throws it.
Hmm.
Get those two poses, and then you put like a pose in between them that is like a breakdown, and then you add poses in between, and you keep going
Hmm.
until you have a full animation, and you spline it out and tweak it from there.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like my approach in 2D is it kind of goes straight into just figuring out the movement and worrying about how good the pose looks later. Like if you watch some of my streams, a lot of my animations kind of start out as really like weird scribbles.
Hmm.
Like out of context, they are like just really bad drawings.
Yeah.
But when you play it in full time, then full time, I think
Real
that's a
time.
word. Real time, full time. Um, then you'll actually like see the movement of the stick figure, and I try to get the movement down before I even communicate like what the character is or who the character is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit working backwards, but that's just what works for me.
Mm-hmm. I think we
So
have some examples. I should try to share them after the fact because you have some really great work in progress GIFs of some of your animations, which I really
yes.
appreciate because you're seeing your 2D animation process is fantastic. But I'll
Thank you.
try to share those later because they are really cool, and I'm a sucker for work in progress stuff.
Yeah, those ones are a little bit harder to find. I think I posted one on my Twitter, and like they're very rough for me to look at. Like my process is very iterative. Like
Mm-hmm.
I will try out a movement and it'll look really silly.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll try it out again and it'll still look silly. And then eventually I get to a point where it's feeling good. And in a sense, my 3D is kind of the same way. I am very iterative when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to my process. Like I mess up a lot in my animation before I like get it to a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm just trying to see what to ask. Is there
mhm.
anything that you're currently wanting to improve on with your animations right now? Like, I guess more specifically for your 2D stuff.
So I would say so I get a lot of inspiration from things that people post on Twitter. Like there's a lot of animated GIFs that get shared. Like I think there's a new season of Castlevania that went up,
Yeah.
and there's a really talented animator posted like his early work in progresses of like all the scenes that he did in that,
Yeah.
and they're like these crazy like fully drawn characters with like perspective and like explosions and stuff, and it's like really dynamic shots.
Mm-hmm.
And generally with a lot of my sort of pixel art animations, they're very flat, like they just travel on like a flat plane.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, I would like to get like better with perspective, and I guess yeah, I think mostly perspective and like more movie sort of show quality shots.
Yeah.
I'd really like to give those a try, but I don't think I get many opportunities to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's something that I would like to improve upon
Mm-hmm.
in the future.
Awesome.
Yep.
So what's your daily schedule like? Like what's a normal schedule to you? For like just like a day and like a work day for you because I know you do a lot at work as well as at home.
Yes. So I haven't been doing that as much, but what I used to do was, well, okay, so the thing that's nice is that I live right across from my studio, right
Mm-hmm.
across the street.
That's convenient.
So I think I'd get up at like 9:30 and then try to get to work before 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I can sleep in late and I can get home really fast. So I have a lot of time to myself. Um, Usually I work after. So I think when it comes to the personal stuff that I do on the internet, I kind of do it after work, and most of it's actually done on the weekends.
Okay.
Like I'll work a full 40-hour week, and then in my off time during the weekends, I will get the bulk of my stuff done then.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of other details about my work. One thing I wish I could do was actually take my laptop and go to like a Starbucks or just like get outside at some point.
Yeah.
But I got one of those ugly gamer laptops and I
Oh.
don't want to be caught with those outside. Like I have this, it's like I don't love it. It's this gigantic laptop that it would just look so goofy
Yeah.
outside of my home. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I am at home a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not much. When I was doing it frequently, there wasn't a lot that I was kind of doing outside of work and my Tumblr page. Nowadays, I've been going out a lot more. I've been seeing someone
Mhm.
and more kind of balancing out my life. So,
Yeah, the work-life
yeah.
balance is really important. Your
Yes.
your comment about the laptop actually made me laugh because I had a friend in high school and he had this ridiculous gaming laptop, but the damn thing was made of plastic. So to take
Oh,
care of it,
really?
he carried it around in like this metal briefcase, and it
Oh,
was just such overkill for this beast of a machine that did not last him very long in the long
really?
run. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
hilarious. It was just one of those crazy Alienware ones, but
Hmm.
again, it was everything was made of plastic, so it was super brittle.
Yeah, I think mine has like a plastic, is like made of plastic on the outside. Like it
Yeah.
has like jet, it has like, I guess, fighter jet fans or
Yeah.
vents on the back of the laptop. I don't like a lot of, this is my personal preference. I don't like how a lot of gamer sort of merchandise looks. Like
Yeah.
everybody has like DX Racer chairs, and I don't like how they look.
Yeah. No, I
But
I agree.
everybody has their own tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I can't go outside with my laptop.
Yeah. So, is there anything? So, how do you find that you work now as a professional that's been in the industry for a while now that's different to when you first started? Are there any habits that you got into or things that you picked up in your time as a professional that you know that you've kind of built upon?
So rephrase that question. Sorry.
Sorry. So
It's
basically,
okay.
just
It's okay.
is there what is sorry, how do I say this? Is is there anything that you know now as a professional that you didn't really
Hmm.
know when you were coming in? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Um.
Like in regards to like work, like how you work as an animator, if there's like a way that you schedule your time, or if there's any sort of techniques that really helped you that you just didn't have when you first started.
I guess like.
I guess like habits and lessons that you've learned.
Yeah. I think mainly a lot of what I've, especially at Firaxis, I think
Mm-hmm.
what I've been learning to do is just show my work to anybody. Like I work so heavily on feedback that was something that I never did before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would just make something and post it, and you either liked it or you didn't.
Yeah.
And I would just I would just kind of improve with each new project and with each new picture, but like actually getting feedback from coworkers is really nice because that's actually a big way of how I work is like I just put something down
Mm-hmm.
and then I show it to somebody and they tell me like if it makes sense or it sucks. And
Mm-hmm.
then I iterate from there and do it again and iterate it from there.
Yeah.
Um, I think that answers your question.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
it
sure.
does. It
Like
definitely does.
I would
Um.
say like the main thing that I learned like before and after the game industry was I think before the game industry, I felt like it was going to be like the perfect job for me
Mm-hmm.
because I would go to school and then I'd go home and I would treasure my computer time because it was so hard to get. But now that I work in the industry, I have to find a way to like not have computer time and like get away from the monitor
Yeah.
afterwards. So it kind of flip flopped
Mm-hmm.
for me in my life.
Yeah. You start to savor
So
those breaks.
yeah, those breaks of like not being in front of a monitor, which
Mm-hmm.
I love those times, but I can't do it like 100 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, but before that, I loved my computer game. Like it was very, very precious for me, and it was very hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on top of that, like, is there anything that you're hoping to improve on after, like, Like despite all you've learned? Like aside from like I know you talked about like perspective and like a lot of your personal work, but is there anything
Yeah.
else you'd like to get better at as an animator?
So I would like to get better actually at VFX.
Ooh, yeah.
Actually, I find that in the game industry, there's a lot of there's a lot of animators who kind of want to learn rigging and like
Mm-hmm.
deformation and like a lot of that technical side to get an animation working really good in games.
Mm-hmm.
I I think I go the other direction where I want to just learn how to make explosions with my animations.
Yeah.
Like I've tried rigging and skinning a character, and it is the most tedious. It is so tedious and boring, and I hate it. So I would rather like just do the animation, and I will learn like materials and shaders to do like explosions or lightning,
Mm-hmm.
or like even like just things that are moving but are not necessarily character animation.
Yeah.
Because like I think in a lot of 2D traditional shows and like anime, the character animator and the visual effects animator are the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I kind of want to do that with games as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do want control of like both the character animation and the effects
Mm-hmm.
that come with the character. So I've been leaning a lot on learning VFX
Yeah.
for this past year.
Actually, speaking of that, I watched a video recently. Have you seen the movie Redline by any chance?
Yes, I love Redline.
It's such a good
Yeah,
movie. For those
Redline's
of you
awesome.
watching, that is like one of the most amazing movies in regards to just animation porn.
Yeah,
Like,
I love Redline.
not that there's any actual porn in it, but it's like it is a hand animated, like over the span of 7 years, completely hand animated movie. And one of the things that they talked about is that the director of the movie, he actually made sure that like there were very few actual not hand drawn effects in that movie. And he talks about
Really?
how pretty much all of them were hand drawn, and it was to just make sure that he got it exactly the way he liked it. So it was a really neat thing I just read up on like earlier this week.
Yeah, that's really amazing because I remember that movie having a lot of chrome in it,
Yeah, like
and
insane
that is a
amounts of chrome.
really that is something that's very easy to do in 3D, but very hard to do in traditional.
Yeah, their draftsmanship is superb. I have no other
Yeah,
description for it, but they did all of the ground planes by hand, which is crazy because it's a racing thing and you're drawing terrain going really fast, as well as their
yeah,
explosions and dust and smoke, like all and pretty much all of it was hand animated.
yeah. Generally, I'm not into racing sort of shows or like sports or anything like that. But I feel like that movie went out of its way to just be as extreme as possible.
It was very fun.
Like where it would just be it's like a death race, I
Yeah,
guess. Is that a movie? I don't know.
I think Death Race is a movie.
I'm pretty sure it is, but
Yeah.
okay, so it's Death Race the anime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one that I would it's just such a good time. Like you can't not
Mm,
enjoy yourself with that movie. At least in my opinion. It's one of the few animated movies that I have watched several times.
really?
Yeah, it's so pretty. Yeah, I
Yeah.
so yeah, I really have to give props to you for doing like looking into how to do effects stuff. I that is something I definitely have not had the opportunity to even begin to practice. So
Yeah, it's very different from like approaching effects for 2D is it's kind of straightforward. Like
yeah,
if you want to make fire in 2D, you just draw it.
yeah,
Whereas when you're working with a 3D engine and you have to see things at every angle, you have to like it takes a lot of math
mm-hmm.
to kind of communicate an effect that you can see at multiple angles
Mm-hmm.
and situational.
Yeah,
And like for 2D, it's very easy to draw a cloud,
mm-hmm.
but for games, like clouds are like still there's so much limited technology on how
Yeah.
to make something like a cloud.
Yeah, especially
Which
with
is really weird.
yeah, with the compression that also comes from making games because where like the games lately like especially AAA things, it's all been about making something as beautiful as possible in as optimized a manner as possible. Where with movies, is you have all this time to pre-render something. With games, you have to have everything real-time rendering, which is you have to get really clever with how you render stuff. Actually,
Yeah.
what is the name of that Sprite animator? The guy who does the really good pixel art tutorials? Because I think that was a really good resource. I follow
Saint
them.
11?
Sorry? Saint Lemon?
Is it Saint 11?
Oh, can you type that in chat?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Saint.
But yeah, for those of you interested in 2D, this was actually, I think, Kyle, you're the one that introduced me to this guy. Because I think he popped up in your stream this one time, and I ended up looking them up, and I really liked their tutorials.
Yeah,
Not that
I mean, he's still making tutorials with his. He opened up a Patreon,
Oh,
and
okay.
so that's what he does. So hold on, let me actually link the.
Sweet. Thanks so much.
Here's basically just a link that has all of these tutorials that are really, really handy, and I recommend everybody check out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It's great stuff, especially because he similarly does sprite art, and he shows you how to make something look really good in a very limited area, like with as little as possible.
Yeah, like that's funny. I never talked about why I got into pixel art.
Yeah, actually, please get into actually pixel art because yeah.
So I think when I was working at Gameloft, I was getting interested in pixel art because a lot of friends of mine that went to Pratt Institute were working on pixel art.
Oh, cool. Like for any particular reason?
I'm not sure exactly why. I think at the time it was just like for just like aesthetic reasons.
Okay.
It looked really good on Tumblr and it shared pretty. It was just. I don't know why exactly it was. I think some of them worked on some games. But yeah, I even went towards like the tail end of being laid off at Gameloft. There's somebody that I was talking pixel art with, and like once the studio closed down, I had a lot of time to myself. It was just like, well, I guess I'll do pixel art in my free time.
Yeah.
It was like I was looking for work at the time and having a lot of interviews and not having any luck. Like I think from 2015 for pretty much like a year and a half. Hold on, I can hear myself.
Uh-oh.
It's okay.
Yeah, you're fine on my end. Like I'm not hearing feedback, so.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm good.
Sweet.
So for like a year and a half, I was looking for work, but I was also doing pixel art on the side. Just to kind of keep myself busy and not get rusty.
Yeah.
And it was something I always wanted to do. And funny enough, the pixel art that I made was how I got the job at Firaxis.
Sweet.
There are some fans there, and the studio is pretty close to where I lived at. So.
How was it that you stumbled upon Sprite? Because I don't think I've actually heard about that program until I asked you, and the next person asked you, the next person asked you.
So, yeah, for those of you who don't know, the program that I mainly use is Sprite. I think it's a newer program, but it's basically a program on Steam that is $15. That it's a pixel art program that has a very, very nice timeline functionality to it. Which before I was using graphic scale, which was it was a good program, but the layers weren't. It had a very difficult timeline to work with, so I started using Sprite, which I can type down what Sprite, how to spell it. Hold on.
Oh, we should have put it
Is
on
it
like an overlay.
Yeah. But it's a really good program, and I recommend those of you who are interested in trying out pixel art to give it a shot.
And $15 is a pretty reasonable amount for like a basic animation tool like that.
Yeah, it's still being developed, and I mean, there's other, I guess, pixel art programs out there. Like some people use MS Paint.
Mm-hmm.
I
can't imagine using Paint.
Yeah, MS Paint is a little bit. Actually, don't use MS Paint. But like I think, yeah, mainly graphic scale and Sprite I am very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Oh, what else was I gonna say? Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Kyle streams his work on Sprite a fair amount. So be sure to follow him because he will occasionally tweet that he is streaming, and you can go and actually see Sprite in action. And he's also great about like answering questions that you may have about the program and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely do that. But yeah, what else was I going to ask you? So okay, here's a question for you. What would you consider to be kind of like your superpower? So like something that you consider to be like just what is there anything you feel like you're particularly better at?
Powerful
like,
at?
Yeah. What have you put your stats into?
What do I put my stats into? I'm trying to think of like something outside of animation. Like you wouldn't know. Like, did you know I'm good at this? But man, I can't be that one-dimensional. I'm only good at that.
How good is your coffee, Kyle?
How good is my coffee? It's actually cranberry juice that I'm drinking right now.
It's good for you.
I guess. Okay, so I guess this is a weird superpower.
Mm-hmm.
No, not really. Man, I'm really. I'm surprised that that's a question that I'm struggling with.
Sometimes it's hard to admit that you're good at stuff. Sometimes I struggled with this question too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think for me maybe like. I think what I like. I guess one of my main strengths is versatility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can do a lot of things pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But, man.
You're not min-maxing at anything.
Skip.
Yeah, sorry, that was a tough question.
That was a very hard question. Because if I had choices in like Dungeons and Dragons terms,
yeah,
I think I could like. No, I couldn't even do that. Skip.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
disappointing answer.
No, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're already like stomping us with like the 2D and the 3D and the yeah.
Well, that's the thing that's hard is like now that I think about it, it's like, am I good? Am I like, did I spec in anything else? Like, I don't know. Like, that's all there is to me.
Nah.
Mm.
But at least you're like enjoying it, and there's like you always seem to enjoy yourself when you are animating on stream.
Yeah, I really enjoy animating on stream because I think it is a good middle ground to see. I like working in a studio environment because I have other colleagues near me, so I guess I don't feel as isolated.
Yeah.
With what I'm working on, I can show them what I'm doing, and we're all kind of collaborating together on something. Whereas when I'm at home, I have my own projects and it's kind of just me at home.
Mm-hmm.
So streaming is kind of a good middle ground where like I don't make any promises of like this is what I'm gonna deliver on my stream. It's more like I'm just gonna do my work. You can stop by my stream and talk to me if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
or just hang out. But I'm just gonna be working.
Yeah.
So, but I do check the stream and look at the comments to see if people have questions that I can answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you like to follow my Twitch, and you'll get notified whenever I go live, and you can watch me do work in a beanie.
Yeah, and Kyle is a conversationalist. I annoy him all the time. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
focus.
I do enjoy talking while doing work
Yeah.
as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I'm very bad at like responding to texts, and yeah, I'm really bad at like written communication, but like I can do vocal communication.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Yeah.
hmm?
So what are some lessons and advice you would pass down to a younger version of yourself, if or like to anyone who's watching right now? Is there any advice you'd give on just working in the industry? Anything that you would wish you'd known earlier? Lessons you've learned?
uh something that I would tell my younger self. Probably not to worry so much. Like there were times in my life where it really felt like I was getting nowhere. Like I would just do art and I would post it on the internet and it would get like 2 likes and then get buried.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where it kind of felt like very, like,
It
I guess
stings.
very discouraging. Like
Mm-hmm.
things that seemed very, very discouraging kind of like tore me down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I was looking for work earlier in my career and I applied for Cyanide Happiness, which people don't know. Cyanide Happiness is like, I think it's like a stick figure comic that they do YouTube videos now.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not get the job, which is fine because like my style is very different from theirs. But the voices in my head kept saying I couldn't get a job drawing stick figures. Like it felt really bad, but
Mm-hmm.
like it was completely unfounded.
Yeah.
So
It's
like
yeah, it's definitely really tough going and applying for things and like not being what they're looking for. And sometimes you don't realize it's like certain studios are looking for something very specific, or like when you're junior enough, they either decide that they can like build off of what they see in you, or it's just you're not what they're looking for at that time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you are bad. It's just you're not what they're looking for.
yeah, like that was a long stretch of time where I would just do a lot of art and like I was living with my parents at the time
Mm-hmm.
and it really felt like I was creating stuff like every day.
Mm-hmm.
And like none of it would go anywhere.
Yeah.
But like it was like a year's worth of doing a lot of pictures that nobody ever saw. But then when I made something that became very popular, people started looking at my backlog and realizing like, oh, he's made like hundreds of other things. And then those things kind of get noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So like I guess the best thing to tell my younger self would be to like, you know, keep trying, but also don't worry about it. But worry about it a little bit. But don't worry about it.
The correct amount of concern. Enough for drive.
Like so like the thing is with an art career, it's kind of one of those things where like you'll just kind of slowly pick at it over time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to get a job overnight.
Yeah.
Like these things, like I decided I wanted to get an art career when I was in like the 8th or ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only like now that I've gotten like a really, really good job.
Yeah. And I mean,
So,
it seems like you're having a lot of fun at Firaxis and you're
mhm.
doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's been really great so far.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be my main advice for younger artists out there.
And here's a couple more questions for you, just to start to wrap things up, and then we'll try to answer a few questions. So if people want to throw any questions that they may have for Kyle into the chat, we'll go over them after these couple questions, and then should wrap up quite nicely, I think. So the first one, and I think you kind of answered it with your last question, but let's see if you can build on it. But what advice would you give to people trying to break into the industry? And anything that you think that they should have in their portfolio, and like how would you want to get like best way to get feedback for your work?
Like how to get in contact with industry professionals?
Yeah, like how like what are tips that you would give as someone who was trying to get into the industry? Like what did you learn from trying to apply at game studios and stuff?
I mean, one thing that's really nice about now is that everybody kind of has access to professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Twitter and Tumblr and like even Discord, you can just post up your work and professionals will just look at it and be able to tell you like what's wrong with it or like how to improve. Like it's very easy to reach professionals now, which when I was much younger, it was nearly impossible. Like I had no connections at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, we're more connected with the internet for better and for worse. But yeah, I don't know what I would teach I don't know what was the question again?
Sorry, just like what sort of tips would you give for breaking into the industry? And networking is definitely a good one, like the ability to ask for critiques from professionals. But is there anything else that you would suggest?
I'm trying to think of like
I think your previous answer was also very good about like not to worry too much, but like worry a little.
Yeah, worry a little bit, but don't worry too much. You know, like it used to eat me up inside that I knew nobody in the industry after I graduated college. Like college was a place to get connections and like be able to get to the industry. And I ended up graduating and knowing nobody in the industry, and it just kind of fell apart from there.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of connections that I've made and a lot of friends that I've come into contact with was just from like making stuff and putting things out there.
Yeah.
And like some people, like it might not be noticed by a lot of people, but you know, there might be somebody who's a professional who will notice it and be a fan of your work. And they will share your stuff, which will lead to other professionals showing it off, and like it kind of steamrolls from there. So I don't know, I wouldn't worry. Just like, I don't know, be a decent person and just keep making stuff, and like people will come to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think that was a good place to leave it, because I think you've answered pretty much everything else that I've got written down. So I guess we'll hop over to questions. And so far we have one. So guys, if you have any others that come to mind, feel free to write it in as I'm asking this one for Kyle. So question here is, how do you power through those moments where you feel down about your work or feeling like you've got like your animation blocked? Because you do a lot of animation. I don't think I've seen you get stuck yet, but that's hard for me to say.
I think for me, what I have to do is there have been things where I got stuck with and I had to just work on something different. Like, I'm trying to think of a certain example. Like, I mean, this more applies to personal work. I think when you're working in the industry, if you're assigned to do something, you got to do it no matter what. But I've had personal projects that I've worked on, and I had no idea how to proceed with those. And like I've had projects that have been abandoned. Like I think my laptop got nuked recently,
Oh
and
no!
all of my stuff, like my game project that I had, was completely lost.
Oh no!
Yeah. Which was a bummer, but the thing is, I approached it as like sort of a training exercise rather than like this is a game that I want to make, you know. So, I think to power through those moments, if I leave something be and just work on something different or just do something completely different, maybe I will have like a different mindset that I can see and tackle it at a different angle. But yeah, that's mostly my approach. But like when it's like constant making art and it, like not getting anywhere, I don't know. It's kind of hard to like define how to go about that because it does suck when you create stuff and then like you get into a block. And I mean, I do know artists who get blocks and they won't draw for months.
Oh yeah.
But then when they do pick it back up, it's fine. Like
yeah, sometimes you almost need that reboot, just that time away for your brain to cool off, essentially.
Like I don't know any. I think that is a big worry where like if you don't work on anything for like a couple months, then all of a sudden you forget how to draw. Which like I don't know. I've never seen like somebody, you know, be really into drawing and then they don't do it for a couple years and then all of a sudden they're bad at drawing.
Definitely.
I don't think anyways.
No. Well, I think you're rusty and it takes some time to get back into it, but it's like
but it's like still there.
Yeah, it's just retraining that muscle memory almost. At least with my experience from not using Maya for a year, like I'm picking it up again, but I am rusty.
Yeah.
So
well, like that's not like, oh, I forgot. I
Yeah.
lost the information because I was going through a block.
But it may take some time to ease in.
Yeah. So that was something that worried me a lot, that there was like nothing to worry about.
Okay, so next question. Here's some stuff about your sprite art. How do you keep your forms consistent in 2D?
So that is a process of iteration. I will make an animation and it'll deform as hell. Like I will actually make the mistake of making an animation and then like the head shrinks.
Oh no.
So I'll just notice that and make the head not shrink. So I do run into issues where the character becomes like not on model anymore. And like, yeah, they'll have shorter. I think I've had an animation where the character's legs just all of a sudden got shorter. And like the thing is with like staying on model is if you notice it, you should be able to correct it. Like just go back and make the legs thicker.
Yeah.
And if you don't notice it, then it's not really going off model.
That's a good way of putting it.
So, I guess that's an answer to that. I don't worry too much about like things going off model. I just want them to move.
Yeah. Good. Like I just recall like one of my favorite ones of yours for like just keeping on model is your diva with that turnaround, and it looks it looks so solid. So, and that's one of your earlier ones too. But I always look at it and I'm like, damn it, draftsmanship.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I would like to do that again.
What, another diva?
It's hard to another like I guess 3D turnaround of like a hard surface character.
Oh yeah.
It's harder to do with like in like something that is not just an object.
Yeah.
But
you could do a reset.
Yeah. one day.
Uh,
That turnaround was a pain in the butt.
yeah, I'm not surprised. It looked like it was. And another question, how does your 2D influence your 3D animation and vice versa?
So I think that's actually a good question. Like, I have actually done 3D animations that have started out as Flash previses.
Yeah.
Like, I will just draw, like, kind of how I want to move in 2D and then use that as a reference for 3D.
Okay.
I feel like I have, like, another example of that. I think in terms of 3D influencing my 2D, I tend to focus really, really harshly on like small details. Like there's a thing with 3D animation where if a 3D character moves slightly off, it looks weird. But you can like get away with like slightly off motion like 2D and stop motion. But for some reason 3D it's very unsettling. So a lot of 3D animators really focus in and make sure like the spacing is very, very precise. And I carry that over into a lot of my 2D work. And I think it's hard to bring influence from 2D into 3D, which is why I'm taking up visual effects, like VFX for games, because that is very, very 2D influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the effects or a lot of the approach that I'm taking with effects is like having certain mesh shapes and swapping them at certain frames to make that like it's hard to describe, but without an example, I don't have any examples unfortunately. But a lot of visual effects that I'm trying out in games are very, very inspired by my 2D stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess the only other thing I'm trying to, what was the last thing I wanted to ask? Are there any references or anything that you would recommend to any like animators watching this that you like as a go-to for when you're working? Like any books or any videos aside from like the Saint 11 that you mentioned, or, well, yeah, that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Honestly, like I looked at my colleagues a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I will, because I don't actually look at a lot of tutorials. Honestly, but like an actual, like a good resource. That I mean, I don't know if reference would be the same thing. Like if you have like a folder of just animation clips that inspire you.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That is something that you can do as a aspiring animator. Like I did that for a little bit where I wanted to try out character design. So I just made a folder that consisted of a lot of characters that I thought looked really cool. And I would look at that for inspiration.
An animation reference folder is a great idea.
Yeah.
I've never even considered that.
Try that out.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's all of the questions. All right, so I think we'll wrap up there. Thanks again, Kyle. Like, thanks so much for taking the time to like let me pick your brain. And
yeah, no problem.
I'm sure I hope everyone here enjoyed it as much as I did. Again, if you can follow Kyle on Twitter and Tumblr, and he's got a Patreon, so you can see more of his sprite work. And yeah, so yeah, thanks again. Hopefully we will be back next week for a regular panel session. But yeah, thanks so much, Kyle, and I hope everyone has a good morning or afternoon or evening. Yeah, so
yeah, thanks for stopping by, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. You guys all have a good night.
Have a good one.
Bye.